Welcome back to another edition of Potluck, your everything and anything talk and entertainment TV show. Today we have two wonderful guests joining us who are with the Juris Day PLLC in Fairfax, Virginia. With me I have Chris Day, attorney Chris Day, and attorney Trey Mayfield. So
Morning.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
How are you guys doing?
Doing excellent.
Doing great.
So, so we're here to talk about law, and actually there are some interesting things that we're going to talk about, such as how you can protect yourself and against the government from, I don't know.
Things like overzealous prosecutions.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, so let's backtrack. How did you guys get to know each other, and how did you guys form a practice together?
We've known each other for a heck of a long time now.
It's too long. It's exhausting.
Too long. Very exhausting. But we've been practicing law since 2002 together.
Okay.
And we focus primarily on helping the little guy, helping the victim, and that can permeate a lot of different legal fields. We're a boutique law firm in Fairfax, right across from the courthouse, but when it comes to helping out the little guy, it could mean something like a major whistleblower case where we're trying to help the taxpayer.
Okay.
Or an overzealous prosecutor where they, going after someone very overzealously, ramping up the charges, charging someone with felonies when it should only be a misdemeanor, or even charging them at all when they shouldn't be charged at all. So.
Right.
Civil rights, for instance.
Okay.
We do a fair amount of protecting religious institutions. So if the government is interfering with people's right to exercise their religious beliefs, we'll step in, we'll help those churches or those church members or
Oh, really?
a synagogue, a mosque. We do free speech cases. We actually have a case that is maybe going to the Supreme Court right now. We've had some wins in that area. We've represented people who have been subjected to police brutality. It really does run the gamut, but we're usually representing the smaller guy against the bigger guy. And the bigger guy can be a bigger company. It can be some agency of the government. It can be, and oftentimes we're representing the subcontractor against the prime contractor.
Right.
Or a small business like a bar or a restaurant or a dry cleaners against an overzealous bureaucracy or a general contractor that's not paying them.
Okay. So what, over the years that you have done this, what's been like the most interesting case that you guys have done?
You're going to make us pick. Well, that's one thing I love about my job is even though we're a litigation firm, which means we're generally in courtrooms working with juries, working with judges and whatnot,
right.
Our job can vary wildly. You can one day doing a First Amendment case, and then the next day defending someone in court on a bomb charge.
Okay.
So the most interesting, we had a great trial in the spring. I thought that was a lot of fun. We have to be careful about saying it's fun. We love our job.
Right. Yeah, we're probably very serious.
For our clients, it's extremely
It's fun
serious.
when you're on the right side.
Right.
Well, to go a little bit off topic, one of the things that we do is criminal defense, and people often ask, well, how can you defend people when you know they're guilty? And I say, it's actually really easy defending people who are guilty, because it's not your fault if things go badly. They did something.
Right.
But people are often overcharged. People are often charged with something that might be wrong, but not necessarily illegal. Take a good example, Governor McDonnell here in Virginia. We had nothing to do with that case, but that's a good example of he did some things that were unseemly, I think that most of us would disapprove of, but he hadn't actually committed any crime, and yet the prosecutors came after him with a vengeance and ruined
So
his life.
So you guys try to like reduce it or try to make it fair.
Well, that's
if they are guilty.
Force the prosecutor to play by the rules.
Okay.
And make sure that people are punished for what they did, not what somebody else thinks they did, or what somebody thinks they ought to be punished for, but what the law actually says.
Okay.
And so what I was getting back to is what's really hard is defending people who are innocent, because then you feel terrible if things go wrong. So when you are defending somebody, as Chris is about to tell you about, who didn't do anything wrong, who's completely innocent, that's the fun case for us because you're emotionally invested. We obviously always do our best for every client, but there's some people you care about more than others, and the innocent guy who's being trammeled upon by the government or by a company that he did good work for is the ideal client.
Oh, wow.
So.
We had a case that was clearly being over-prosecuted, and we have to be very careful about not mentioning names, of
Sure,
course.
sure. No,
But there was a gentleman who was an electrical engineer, very experienced, knew his job, very dedicated to his job. He worked for a certain government agency. And it came on that people had to go into his apartment because of a water leak. And what the folks in the apartment discovered were there were mechanical gadgets everywhere. There was plastic sheeting up and things like that. They didn't know anything. These weren't engineers themselves, so they had no idea what they were looking at. So they call the police. The police come, the fire department comes, and at first they thought, well, is this a meth lab? Is this and then they thought, well, maybe this is a bomb making. So they evacuate the entire building.
Oh my gosh.
And they're investigating things and trying to figure it out, but no one really knew what it was because this gentleman is an inventor. Our client is a very talented inventor who's made a lot of different devices over the years. And so
people just assumed it was...
Just assumed there's something bad. And so...
Did they ask the guy?
They would talk to him, and then they just didn't believe any of his explanations.
Okay.
As it came out later, the fire marshal actually said this. We're not paraphrasing.
So we have the transcript.
We have the transcript in court. He said when he was asked, well, why do you think these things are bombs? And he says, well, if you can make an electrical circuit out of it, and I don't know what it is, then I think it's a bomb.
Oh, wow.
Which would mean the iPhone 7, if he'd happened to come across that 6 months ago, it would be a bomb.
Right.
Because he didn't know what it was because it wasn't out yet.
Sure.
But there were parts to air conditioners out, didn't know what it was, charged it. There was an actual light, a remote control light that our client had built. You could press a button, it would turn on, press a button, it would turn off. That's all it did.
Just a light.
Fire marshal didn't know until he had investigated it more, and I thought it was some sort of bomb ignition. So charged him with 4 counts of bomb making, 4 felonies. Our client, over 60 years old, grandfather.
Oh my gosh.
No criminal record, good job, electrical engineer, is now charged with 4 felony counts. He's looking at 40 years.
Worked for the government with a high security clearance.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So on the stand, we've got the fire marshal up again, and we're asking him about the light. Sir, can you tell me, this is bomb count number 2.
Right.
Can you tell me, did your scientists investigate? Yes. Can you tell the court today what would happen if we brought it in here and flicked that switch? It would turn on a light. Why are we here? The judge even asked us, why are we here?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, so this is an example of an overzealous fire marshal and prosecutor.
And this did affect his job?
Lost his pay for over a year.
Oh my gosh.
In addition to what he had to pay us, in addition to the turmoil that put he and his family, and he couldn't leave the state. He had an ankle bracelet on at all times.
Oh my gosh.
He was treated like a criminal.
Wow. Wow. And so once he was found not guilty, did they have to give him his job back and give him back pay and all that? Or did he just
have to is a strong word.
Okay.
In Virginia, the general rule is it's at-will employment. You can be let go for any reason. You can quit for any reason.
Sure.
But for safety reasons, the government had to put him on suspension during this period of time because the work that he did and what he was accused of don't really mesh.
Right.
So they had to do that.
Right.
But I think he's still fighting to get that back pay right now, and we're probably going to follow up with him soon and see how that fight's going.
Did he file anything against the fire marshal or anything like that?
Fortunately, there's almost nothing you can do. Under state law, there's nothing you can do. Under federal law, if these have been federal charges, they're an extremely narrow set of circumstances where if prosecutors have been egregiously overzealous, you can try to get your legal fees back. But that is, on the state level, which is where most people are charged with crimes, that's not possible.
So why didn't they bring, it was just the fire marshal. Did they bring any more people in to further investigate that would have been more qualified?
They actually brought in somebody from the federal government.
Okay, like the FBI?
The FBI,
okay.
And who was an experienced bomb expert, and he thought the case was laughable.
Okay, and it still went to court even after that.
Because you have these government bureaucrats,
Yes.
a prosecutor and a fire marshal who were simply not willing to admit that they were wrong.
They made a mistake. They should have dropped the charges immediately.
Wow.
They didn't.
Wow.
You get people who have bad judgment and you give them power.
Right.
They have the chance to be wrecking balls in people's lives.
We were on a break during the trial, and I went to talk to this FBI expert who hadn't testified yet. He was subpoenaed there by the prosecutor, and I'm trying to figure out, why are you here? What's going on? And he revealed to me, he's like, I really don't know. I'm not sure why they brought these charges.
Right.
This was the prosecutor's witness, the probably the foremost expert in the building that day.
Sure.
And yet they continued to go forward. They didn't back off. They could have at any time said, you know, you're right, Mr. Day, you're right, Mr. Mayfield, we're dismissing charges now. And
Right.
they didn't.
Right. Wow. So did this guy bring this to like the media or talk about it at all? Or
He's a private guy.
Oh, he's a private. Okay. Okay. So this is the first time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I couldn't even imagine if that ever happened. You know. But I mean, you know, on as far as like the fire marshal, I guess with everything that happens like in the media as far as terrorists activities and stuff, they're probably trying to.
Well, that's the problem. They let their mentality get in the way of the facts.
Yeah. Yeah. When there's no clear-cut evidence. That, I mean,
No evidence.
Let me
wow, wow.
No evidence. Let me just add a caveat though. Is I don't think the fire marshal and the prosecutor are bad people in any way.
Sure.
I just think that they didn't quite understand the case and where it went. I don't think they appreciate just how much turmoil they can inflict on someone with just the charges.
Right.
Let alone a conviction.
Right. Now,
especially in this day and age where you simply plop someone's name into Google, and the first thing that's going to pop up is local man charged with terrorist bombs.
wow. Now, did that get put in the papers at all that this was even found? I mean, I'm sure the building must have, like, people were probably, his neighbors and stuff were talking, and wow.
It did make the news. There were also they're publishing the police records and the arrest records. So but the thing is, you don't want to bring too much attention to it.
Sure.
You know, because then you're making it worse for yourself.
Sure.
Because a lot of times, this is a sad thing about the world is you hear that someone's charged and you immediately assume they're guilty. A lot of people just do that automatically. And I got to tell you, and we've been practicing over 20 years now. There are a lot of folks that are innocent that are charged.
Wow. And those that are guilty that get off?
Well, you get some of that too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true. I mean, there are definitely some guilty people that'll occasionally get off.
The thing to keep in mind is that people often forget this, you know, because a lot of us watch too much Law and Order and Perry Mason and whatnot. And you think, well, you know they did it. And the fact is, there are a lot of guilty people out there. But under our system, to give you the example, the people we just used, you know, these were people who have, let's say, very bad judgment. And when you give people with bad judgment, and sometimes bad people, power.
Right.
If someone can bring a charge against you and have you found guilty without a certain level of proof, and in our system it's beyond a reasonable doubt, well, then that means they can do it to somebody who's innocent. So if somebody has a grudge against you, and he happens to be a cop or a fire marshal or some other kind of bureaucrat, then if you don't have a system that's able to defend the guilty people, then the innocent people are going to go down with them too. And you know, you need to look no further than these stories of you know, government officials using spy technology to spy on private citizens. All right, and there's almost nothing you can do about it. You know, it's been a couple years now, but you know, we all remember the Duke lacrosse team case, right? These are horrible, horrible accusations of a gang rape against these kids, and it turns out this entire thing was a fabrication. And yet this went on for nearly 2 years.
Right.
You know, and these kids were innocent. And it's precisely because of our criminal justice system, we put the prosecution to the test.
Right.
So when someone gets off, whether they're guilty or not, that's protecting everybody, not just that guy there. And people have to keep in mind the system is there precisely to protect innocent people. And if the prosecution can't meet its burden, if it can't produce the evidence and meet the law, then that's protecting everybody who's not in that courtroom too.
Right. Wow. So what have been some of the challenges along the way for you guys?
Wow, challenges.
Other than getting along.
Well, I was going to say, working with him? Do I need to go further? I don't know.
I think sometimes we find ourselves against the big guys, like I said, and they tend to have big law firms, or we are often outmanned. And so one of the fun things, I think as Chris put it about our job, is that we have to be a lot more nimble. A lot of times we'll go up against a big multinational law firm and they'll dump, you know, a 100-page brief, you know, with every kitchen sink kind of argument you can imagine. And a lot of them don't even make any sense at all. And it's our job to cut that down and get to the heart of the case.
Okay.
And we find a lot of times that judges and juries appreciate that. You know, just don't waste their time, find out what's really important, And when you have to operate on a limited budget, because most of our clients, like I said, are smaller, you're the David against Goliath, you've got to learn how to make that one stone hit.
Right.
I would say we're outmanned, but we're not outgunned.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I got to tell you, Trey, great lawyer. He, former U.S. attorney, big firm, judicial clerk, and I would put his briefs and his research work up against any big firm attorney that we've ever gone up against.
Oh, wow.
And frankly, when it comes down to exactly what Trey was saying, that is, we'll get a 100-page brief, and they're just throwing everything. I think they've probably had 4 associates, this big firm, working on just one brief, and Trey's taking on 4 people, essentially. He will be able to just cut through the BS, get to the heart of the matter, and judges aren't idiots.
Sure.
And they're going to figure
We prefer when they're not idiots.
Most of the judges out there are great judges.
Many of you who may be watching.
Yes.
Right. Too funny. So, what's been the most gratifying case or scenario for you guys? What has made you think, oh my God, I love my job?
I had a case, actually, it's still going.
Okay.
And it involved a woman. This is sort of a combination of a First Amendment and a whistleblower case, but it involves a woman who is a federal employee. She's a law enforcement officer. She discovered that her supervisor was engaged in illegal activities, spying on people, actually using law enforcement computers. Anonymously reported him.
Spying on his employees?
Employees and private citizens.
Okay.
He was
something that would outrage most people, right?
Yeah,
crazy.
Official law enforcement databases. It's actually a crime to do that.
Yeah.
It's a federal crime. And he was, for personal reasons that had nothing to do with his job, he was using this computer hundreds of times. These databases. He ultimately was going to get fired for it, and the federal government moves very slowly in firing people. So he knew he was going to lose his job, so he started applying around the federal government for another law enforcement job. And he got an offer, or tentative offer, and the same person who had reported him found out about this, and she sent some anonymous letter saying, do you realize who you're getting here?
Right.
This person is engaged, he's about to be fired for what he did. It's highly unethical.
So she found out that he was
getting the new job.
He got the new job.
Jumping over to another federal agency. And so that got revoked. So all of us are safer now as a result of what she did, because this person is longer able to abuse his authority. So he turned around and sued her.
Oh my gosh.
And this case has been going on for nearly a decade. And we have now won twice in the Court of Appeals.
Wow.
Having his frivolous lawsuits thrown out against us. But it's cost this woman hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees. And it's now, the other side is now attempting to take it to the Supreme Court of the United States.
So why would she have to pay the legal fees since she won? Shouldn't it be like the other way around where he's having to
Unfortunately,
pay?
the default rule in the United States is that everyone bears the own burden of their legal fees. So the British rule is a little different. The British rule is the winner has their fees paid by the loser.
Okay.
But in the United States, it's not the case. So everyone pays their own fees. There are exceptions to that rule, like Title VII.
That's federal civil rights statute.
Okay.
And other things where the winner can have their fees paid by the loser. But this was a private individual suing another private individual over a essentially this
personal injury suit.
So they both pay their own fees.
They pay their own fees.
Okay.
Right.
Now I know somebody that went through a custody battle, and he ended up having to pay his fees along with her fees.
Well, we don't do divorce, but
right.
just to explain what that means is a lot of times if there's a imbalance in income between a divorced couple, the court in their property settlements and other things will try to do that to make sure that the person with the lower income does not get abused with either not having a lawyer or having a poor quality lawyer. That's why they do that.
Okay. Well.
Unfortunately, that's not the rule for most lawsuits.
Right. Wow. So this poor woman is still going through this process.
She is.
Now, are there any companies or anybody that can help her with? In this case, you're trying to do the right thing, and then you're having to pay out money that she may not even have.
Well, at one point in the suit, they allowed this case to go forward, which they shouldn't have. The judge made a mistake, allowed it to go to trial. She had a verdict against her, and under the First Amendment of our Constitution, you're allowed to make truthful statements
Sure.
about other people,
Okay.
which is what she did. She didn't say anything false. And so she had to pay for that trial, and then this jury, which thought, unfortunately, that apparently this guy was entitled to have a job, a federal job, no matter what he did, came up with a $250,000 verdict against her. And so they then took her federal wages. They took a quarter of her wages.
Oh my gosh.
For over a year, and we had to continue to fight for her, and eventually we got that reversed. But for a year, she was having a quarter of her income taken out every 2 weeks.
Can she countersue him for having to go through all this stuff? I mean,
there are certain. Well, I'll let you.
She could sue, but unfortunately, because the courts let this case go on, and that's, I think, in large part a mistake on the part of certain judges.
right.
She's probably not ever going to get her legal fees back. We're going to try. But the system in the United States does not treat frivolous lawsuits the way it should. And it doesn't matter whose frivolous lawsuit it is most of the time. So she is probably going to be out that money. We're certainly going to try.
Right,
you know,
right.
But the odds are steep. It's in almost any kind of case, unless Chris mentioned, unless it's a civil rights case, or you have a contract where it says the loser will pay the winner the legal fees. Generally, you have to bear your own costs.
So, I mean, say if she had quit her job and then she doesn't have a job, wouldn't the legal fees have to maybe go towards him? Or what would happen?
They would continue coming after her. They would put a lien against her house. They did put a lien against her house, so if she tried to sell it, the money would go to pay him first.
Wow, wow. So doing the right thing, you could still get screwed over.
And I think that's for me personally, that's the client I felt most strongly about, because this is somebody who not just was a victim, but went out to protect the public. Like she went out of her way.
We're trying to do the right thing, and I guess if it was a private company, maybe they would stand behind her and do something. But since it's the government, I guess they couldn't.
Threw her under the bus.
Oh, God, wow.
Now, what essentially the allegations were against our client is that that she said something that was untrue or said something that was wrong that lost this guy this job, right?
Okay.
That's an allegation of essentially defamation, right? And our argument is, well, First Amendment, you're not supposed to use the court system or the government to stifle speech at all. That's one.
Sure.
But two, anything you say that is true is not defamation. You have a First Amendment right to speak the truth.
Sure.
Right? So what we're seeing nowadays is some very interesting cases coming out with Yelp and some other things, which there's a restaurant in Fairfax City. If I had known we were going to talk about this, I actually would have gotten their permission to bring it up. But something happened and they opened up.
Okay.
Great place. And they got about the first month they were open, a group comes in. They're having a great time ordering expensive wine, having all the appetizers they can. The bill's like $600. And they say, bring the manager over. So the manager of this new restaurant comes over and says, yes, can I help you? I hope you enjoyed it. He says,
right.
Well, we did, but we don't want to spend this much. So we'd like to spend maybe half this, and we'll give you a good review on Yelp. Or
oh my gosh.
if you don't, we're going to give you a bad review on Yelp.
And we're seeing a lot of that starting these days.
These are random people. Just
Customers
not
trying to
anybody that's
blackmail.
representing. Wow.
We have another customer who operates a body shop. Exact same circumstance. People are refusing to pay, and then putting false Yelp reviews up, even though they've gotten everything they paid for, in the hopes that, and essentially, that this guy they'll take down the Yelp review if he won't sue them.
Right. Okay. So have they gone to court, or what would happen? What happens?
Fairfax case is still sort of moving around, but we had a case maybe about a year and a half ago in which a contractor, someone that goes in and fixes up people's homes, does improvements and whatnot, was falsely accused, again from a client who didn't want to pay or pay less.
Right.
That some of the contractor's employees stole things or damaged property when it didn't happen. They had photographs and everything to prove that it was all lies. But problem is, there you are, you're in court, and you're bearing your own legal fees, and you're having to fight that fight. But even worse, sometimes when it's a business, this is the unfair part, what strikes me as deeply unfair.
Sure.
This is someone's livelihood. This contractor is not some big mega corporation.
Sure.
This is, a small shop. This is how he puts food on his table for his family.
Sure.
It's like going to someone's place of work and saying that someone's a child molester, saying that,
Right.
yeah, Joe, you know, that you've been working with for 10 years, he's a child molester. So he gets fired, ruins his, it's really no different, except that one's a business, one isn't.
Right.
And anyway, so we fought that. Took that to the Fairfax Circuit Court, and we got the judge to order to bring it down. And then we parted companies with the client at that point, and I think he hired someone else. But we won every round of that fight that we were in. So.
Wow.
Speaking of contractors, that's actually another area that we do a fair amount of work in.
Okay.
There are a series of federal laws that protect the federal government against fraud that other people are committing against it. And so, you know, the federal government is huge and it spends billions of dollars in billions of different ways. And people take advantage of that. And so in one case that we had... we're cutting to the end right now. Sure.
We're cutting.
We're already over.
Yeah, I know. This goes by really fast, so we'll have to bring you back so you can explain this. But so, did you guys have a website?
We do. www.jurisday.com, which is JURISDAY.com.
Okay, and you cover DUIs. You don't do divorces. What are other things?
We don't do family law, and we don't do intellectual property, but we do almost everything else.
Yeah.
You stand up for people's rights, apparently.
That's our main goal. I mean, that's, you know, it's one thing to put food on your table. It's another thing to fill your soul, and we prefer to be on the side of the good guy.
Okay. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming.
It's our pleasure.
And
Thanks
if
for
you're
having us.
just tuning in right now, make sure you catch us on the web at www.potluck-online.org, and we'll see you next time.